All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 13th episode of our sessions. Today's topic is role of the coach and communication. Uh, with us, we've got two leading ladies of Indian squash who are going to take the presentation. Mekla Subedar Srivastava, four times national champion, uh, level two coach, and who has represented India over the past 12 years or over 12 years. And with her, we've got Surbhi Mishra, who's been a junior national champion thrice in the various categories, represented India in numerous Asian and World Junior events, and she also has the distinction of being a World Junior bronze medalist in the team championships, which has been the best result an Indian team has had when we lost in the semi-finals at the World Juniors. Okay, so today's session is going to be slightly different to the way we've done our other sessions. There's going to be a little bit of interaction and communication between Surbhi and Mekla. So let's hear what they have to say. Mekla, you got to unmute. Mekla,
Unmute.
start again. Unmute.
Sorry. Thank you, Cyrus. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for attending. So today's topic of discussion is role of the coach and communication. How important is the role of the coach? It's not really a textbook definition that you go through. As and when you spend time with your players, you get to know them better. Whether he wants to play at the club level, national level, international level, it all depends on him. He may not aspire to be a national champion or a national level player, but we have to take him to his potential and make him achieve his best and personal excellence. Now, the overall responsibility of the coach is to assist in the promotion. Promotion, we all as coaches and former players have to help SRFI to dig in and promote the game at the grassroots level and development and coaching of the game with SRFI. Now, what exactly is coaching? Now, this might seem very anglicized. It's the ability to effect positive change through a proven method of teaching. Teaching is basically teaching the ABCs of the squash: what, when, where, how. Nurturing is like a plant, like how you put water, minerals, fertilizers in a plant to help it grow. The same way for a player also, we have to help him with strategy, mental toughness, nutrition, game sense. And mentoring is being there for him and sorting out just the minor flaws. I remember one clipping I was seeing yesterday on Netflix series of The Last Dance. It's on Michael Jordan, and he had Phil Jackson as his coach since the beginning. And Chicago Bulls suddenly decided to change Phil Jackson, but Michael Jordan just stuck to his coach and he said, I will only play if Phil Jackson is the coach, because I think there was a connect. So that's where really mentoring comes in. The art and science of coaching is science is basically again the ABCs: what, when, where, the technical aspect of the game, what we all have to teach. And the art is that from the technical aspect, if like for example, I have a very good example of Della Lee, a Singapore player who had a very unconventional type of swing and grip, but I think her coach saw the potential in her and helped her to really, reach her maximum. So it is not really that this is right and this is wrong. We as coaches have to really take them through and and work for what is best for our players. Exactly like Jasprit Bumrah, the cricketer, also the bowler, his hand action, if you see, is very odd. But I think his coach has got the best out of him. So generally, it is three types of coaching styles: authoritarian, democratic, and holistic. I just love the authoritarian way of coaching. I mean, do this, do that, do this, do that. But it does not work with everyone else. It is like for an authoritarian coach, when I had so many coaches, they would tell me, do this, and I would, like horses blinkers, just do this. And I did that. Like if Cyrus told me that hit like 200 straight drives or anything, I would just do that. So an authoritarian coach will just firmly tell what has to be done. Then an authoritarian coach, also other coaches, are very well organized. It's well planned, and but the only thing is that there is no discussion between the players that is happening.
I would like to speak here, Meghla, but that's not something that I feel today is the way we can deal with kids in today's time. A democratic coach is, he allows players to grow. Today's kids, they want to have a communication with them. I don't think being an authoritarian, you will be able to get the best out of them. You can't make them self-reliant. They can't make their own decisions. If you're going to be making all decisions in the court, you can, kind of, if they're democratic, if your way of teaching them is they be able to solve their own problems, I think that is one of the better ways of coaching. And also, that's the only way you can develop a relationship. If you're going to be just the master of doing things, I don't think it's possible to do it that way. In today's time, especially when the kids are not, they don't take things lying down that well. They have their own minds. So I just think that is one way, like a democratic coach is take some ownership, and which I think is very important, very, very, very important.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think ultimately we'll have to mix up the autocratic and the democratic way of coaching, and bring out what is best for each player, for each level of play, as in beginners, intermediate, and advanced. So this style is suited.
I would like to ask over here. It's I like to ask the coaches over here. We have a lot of people out here. What do you think is the best way? We like to unmute one by one. You can speak what you think. We'll take few answers from people. What do you think is the best way to coach?
How about asking the director of coaching, Dheeraj Singh? If he is here. Dheeraj? Okay. Dilip?
Okay, if no one else is asking, I want to rather say, and I feel the way I love it is if I say something and they listen, that's the best. And both Surbhi and Meghla, you all have been very good students, so you all have always done it that way. But yes, what Surbhi mentioned today, it's different. So you have to handle it differently. Different ages, we've got to handle differently, and also there is a difference on how you will treat a boy and a girl. There will be a difference, and I've experienced that myself on dealing with boys and girls and the ages as well. So I certainly feel a difference. Which is better? Let's let the other coaches come in.
Yeah, will be nice to hear.
Different.
Dilip?
Okay, Surbhi and Meghla, I prefer the middle one. Basically, it should be the combination of all three. Depends on player to player. But I'll go with the middle one. So it's a two-way communication. Basically, as Surbhi says, he give ownership to the player also. So I'm basically discussing what exactly you need to do. So I think mostly it's combination of all three. But if it is two-way communication, it's really, really good.
Okay, Avi?
Different kids have different needs. It depends on kid to kid. I think it should be ideally a combination of all three. Now, my son, for example, if you give him a good shelling, he's a different player on court. His performance just picks up. So you can't really say that A works, B doesn't work.
it's a combination of all.
Yeah, we're just getting ideas. Thank you, Sanjay. Avi?
With the juniors, I would put a rich beginners authority a little more so that you can set in the discipline. As they get better, seniors, as they are 15, 16, 17, I prefer a little democratic way.
Can't hear you, Avinash. Can't hear
Can't hear
you.
you, Avi.
Can't say, I don't know if my screen has frozen.
Now better.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's okay.
cool.
Yes.
Yeah, I said with the juniors, I would be authoritative so that the systems are set and they learn it the right way. With the seniors, once they are under 17, under 19, I would keep it a little more democratic because they know what the normal drills are. So I would prefer doing that as to a little bit over there.
Nice.
All
I
right.
also agree with Surbi that democratic way is better than authoritarian way. So we have to ask kids also about the communicate with the kids is regular basis is very important.
True. I mean, then authoritarian is not really wrong, but most of the coaches prefer democratic to authoritarian. But like Cyrus and Avi also pointed out, it's basically age-wise. For beginners, you might just have to be a little more authoritarian, and then as they progress, democratic and holistic. Holistic is mostly, I feel, for mature players where you're just there for them, mentoring them, and just telling them, like, for advanced, absolute advanced players like Joshna and Harry or Saurabh, I mean, what new are you going to tell them? It's just the connect that they have with you, and that they just want to be with you, and then they feel confident with you. So that's where the holistic approach really works well.
Yeah, this is Rajesh. I have a question. See, in the West, so I've lived in UK for 13 years. So how would you compare the West to what happens in India or the East? Because I've been to a couple of coaching classes, just not squash, badminton, swimming. So I've never seen any, kind of, it is really professional, and I mean, professional may not be the word, it is more democratic. Are we tending towards democratic in India from an authoritative background, or is it in a transition? What would you say about that?
Meka, you like to take this question?
Yeah, sure. I think like the maximum coaching and the head of squash, the academy is in Chennai, and I have trained there, and I have also had my little bit share of coaching also. So we have authoritarian, democratic, and holistic. So it's an excellent and a wonderful mix of all three. And I have been through all three, and I just loved every bit of it. And I'm sure I can speak for Survi also. I mean, we all just loved being there. It was so it is not that we are aping the West or aping the East. We have our own structured program that is being headed by Cyrus and Mr. Ramchandran, and when Major was also here. So it is a bit of all three that we go through, and that's why we are producing such excellent results as of now.
I like to say we are not moving towards what West is doing. Is just basically the kids and the way things are going, like how the kids are being brought up in today's time. You have to kind of get into that kind of phase as well. It's nothing to that we are changing towards the West. It's basically that the need of today is to get into a more interactive way of doing things is that's what I would like to say. That it's just the whole system around in the country in general, not just squash. It's all the players. They're a bit more well aware. They ask more questions. So that's one of the things that is basically why we are moving towards the democratic way and not looking at doing what West is doing. That's what I'd like to put it.
Okay, perfect.
Next slide, please. Learning styles is basically we have the three learning styles have been put up here, but we have very other different types of learning styles also. Visual learners is where they learn through seeing videos and demonstrations. Like for me, when I have a tournament in Bangalore or Chennai, I take my kids there and watch them play. So if there's an under 11 kid, I'll make him watch an under 11 and an under 13 kid matches to play and to watch their footwork, watch their movement, watch their racket skills. Auditory learners is through listening. Then after that, when the matches are done, we come out, we have a discussion, we talk through things, I ask them, what have you learned? What is the footwork? What did you like of player A? What did you like of player B? So that after watching, it really gets imbibed in their minds. And kinesthetic learners is through moving and doing and touching is like, see, if my players are very fascinated by, say, Harry, and I'll just ask Harry that if you just come and let them feel his racket, what it feels like to be an international level athlete, what it feels like to train, talking to him and seeing what his bag looks like. For young kids, all this makes a lot of difference. They like to ape the senior players. So these are the kind of learning styles that there are. But we also have to remember that after all this, seeing the matches, talking through the matches, and making them introduced to all the top players whom they want to, as role models, then we have to stand back and let the players only kind of have a discussion amongst them. Like if player A's forehand was good enough or not, was the follow through good enough or not. So, I just stand back and I just make them talk to each other. And wherever there is a problem where they don't understand something, I come in and explain and demonstrate and maybe go through the video again and, clear their minds completely. And then I always ask them questions. What did you find interesting? What did you learn in this? What did you like of player A? What didn't you like? What would you like to improve on? So all these things are extremely important, because the players themselves start, if they get it from them only, they will understand more and pick up the game better.
Characteristics of a good coach. There are 6 C's in coaching. Can you guys, any one of you know the six C's of coaching or a coach?
Confidence,
Character,
chemistry,
credibility. Anyone?
challenge.
Competency.
Yes.
Whoa, are we level 2?
Abhinav Dheeraj Singh.
Oh my God. Okay. Okay.
Yes,
So, the characteristics of a good coach are basically you should have the knowledge of what you're doing. That's the primary objective. If you don't know what you're doing, if you're going on court, you don't know how to train a squash player, I don't think you'll be able to do any justice to what you are there to do. So primary knowledge of the sport, of the job that you're doing is one of the best characteristics you should have while getting into coaching in the profession of it. Punctuality, I personally like to be 10 minutes earlier. Like if I have my session at 4 o'clock, my players are supposed to be there at 3:30. I like to be like with the advanced players I'm talking about. With the beginners and intermediate, we don't do it on regular basis, but punctuality with them is also necessary. It'll be nice if you can talk to them while they're warming up, stretching for 5 minutes or something. Just to let you through to the session, what you're going to do with them today. So it makes them feel, it's not just a job that you're doing, just getting with them is one of the things. Integrity, frankness, sense of humor, obviously, if it's not just about joking all the time, but you need to have like some sense of humor that the kid starts relating to you. We've heard the importance of knowing how to plan a session, because it's not knowing what you're going to do. It kind of spoils the time of the kid also, and you don't get the desired result that you want at the end of the day. And that's also a lot to do with people losing interest. You don't know what you're doing, you don't know why you're doing, for what reasons you're doing it. So it's really, really important to be able to plan a session that the kid, when it comes to you, in that 1.5 hour, 2 hour session, 1 hour, you are able to deliver the best of your knowledge and also get the best out of him. Or you need to have the teaching skills, tools to be able to express yourself, explain yourself. Present personality is very, very important as well. You know, you need to be in the right attire when he comes, not in your slippers for a session. So you need to be wearing the right squash clothes, because what you do is what the kids learn from you. You are the first role model that they have of the sport. Uh, Always, you know, smiling, and we all have bad days, but it's better to be smiling, so that, and also you create a home environment for them by just, they should feel that this is another place that they could belong to, for you to start having a good relationship with them. There'll be days where you have your kids not being able to execute the shot or execute the drills that you want them to. That's the time where you being calm and patient comes in. A good coach is always patient. If your kid cannot hit the shot you want, you need to be that patient and keep your calm when he's not able to perform, because your reflection of your attitude comes onto him. He can get more nervous that why am I not able to play it, why am I not able to do it. You might have to throw the ball 100 times, you thought he could do it in 50 shots, but you still have to do it. So this is one of the things that is very important. Having a relationship with the player, the parents, and the other staff that comes in with him, in terms of, nowadays kids are going to other fitness trainers, they are going to some psychologists, so you need to have a good rapport with each one, so that you all are able to bring the best and do the best for the child. Because the main aim of coaching, like Mekla said, is just not creating national, international champions. It's about creating good humans. It's about creating good people, and being a part of a journey where whatever he wants to, he aspires to be, we become a part of that journey. And obviously, since you are doing squash coaching, you must know what you are teaching. You should know all the skills that you're going to teach. You shouldn't be able to hit the drive that you're expecting the child to do, the cross courts, all the shots that I can't teach my kid to play a nick if I can't play it myself.
As we heard Sumiran yesterday, as most of you must have attended her session yesterday, she spoke about how very, very important is communication between a player and a coach. According to me, to have a good and an effective relationship with the player and a coach, you have to be very, very good listeners. You have to catch the small nuances, what, when, where, what happened. So that is very, very, very important to me, to be a very good listener.
Mekla, I have over 100 kids playing in the academy. Do you really expect me to listen to everyone? Let alone being a good listener. I don't think I'll be able to listen to everyone. That's not practically possible.
So, okay, let's have an open dialogue. Let's get other people's views on this. What do you think would you do in a situation like this? Should we just ask Dheeraj? I mean, what are your views on being a good listener?
I think we should communicate with the players and always being what is happening in the situation, the kids, what is they want to, they are really understand all these things, we are giving the guidance or teaching ideas or spreading share our knowledge. So we have to communicate with and little bit what is their problems and what is they want to say about the related to the game or related to the some social life. So we have to be listen with the players.
That is
I think
Tripathi.
okay.
It's good to listen to the players once in a while and do it so that they feel that they are open with you and they can come and speak to you. It creates a little bit of a comfortable environment for them also. So it's good to do that. It's not like you have to listen to them every day. It's good to do once in a way.
Dalitsa.
It basically again comes under the democratic coaching. Again, two-way communication. You have to. Not every time, as Avinash says, not all 100 people, definitely. But then, yeah, I mean, most of the time you need to make this, two-way communication to make them comfortable. Then that's the only way they can, come close to you and then, discuss their problems.
True. I think it's a little bit different in an academy which has like say a lot of kids, like 100 kids, and in an academy which has like 10 to 15 kids. So it just depends from the strength of the players, how many players you have, and so now that'll bring us on to the communication with the players before the game.
If you have 100 kids in your academy, you're not talking to all of them. You have different, coaches under you. So these are the people who are
Yes.
talking to them. It's not required that
Yeah.
Surbhi should talk to all 100 people.
Yes, that is the point we were looking at, in which Dilip Tripathi has nailed it.
So
Thank you,
basically, the basic point over there is you can't be ear to everyone. You just need to be available and approachable. As a coach, you need to be available. By available, I don't mean you need to be picking up this call at 12 o'clock at night, but you need to be available and approachable when and where the need is. That's where you need to understand the communication game.
That's where the communication comes in before a game. I personally will tell my player to first just relax and enjoy the game. They have worked hard. I will give in a lot of positive reinforcement, tell them you've done all the court runs, you've done all the hard work, you've done the drills, the pressure drills, and just go in and play. Not to think कि अरे यार मैं अगर हार गया तो क्या होगा, जीत गया तो क्या होगा. Not all that. So at least I'll try and build in more confidence in them, and then I'll try to tell them that try your skill in a competitive situation. Like Harry had mentioned earlier when he played Farhan Mahboob in Kathmandu at the SAF Games. So Farhan Mahboob and Harry can just go on playing the ball and go on and on and on. So what me and Dheeraj Singh felt that he should go and play an attacking game, and which he did play, and he played wonderfully. So that's where this point also comes in, to try their skills in a competitive situation.
Communication with the player during the game is entirely being positive. I see today's sometimes when I watch these matches and I see a lot of coaches and parents, as soon as the poor child has come out, they all start pouncing on him. They all start shouting, "You didn't do this, you didn't do that. Why are you doing this? Why aren't you doing that?" This is really not necessary. You just have 90 seconds to 120 seconds with that child, and you need to be positive with him. He also already going through some good and bad emotions at that point of time. Here I would like to I personally use that theory where Major used to say the sandwich theory. I'm sure all the coaches who've been with him and all the players who've been with him will know that. He'll never tell you what not to do directly. It used to come as if I've been hitting too many tins. He will come and tell me, "Surbhi, hit the ball a little higher than where you're hitting it." If I'm going and hitting too many balls, he used to come back and say, maybe you can try and hit a drop. Maybe you'll catch him off guard. He's expecting you to play a boss. Stuff like that. The speaking has to be very positive. I felt it work with my own game as a player, and when I enforced it with my players, I did something of that sort. I felt the difference in the kids' game rather than saying, "In mat maro, boss mat maro." So that is one of the things that as coaches, we need to be always positive to them during, before, and after the game. Uh, you know, keeping cool. Us ourselves, obviously, we are also going through some emotions when the kid is not doing well, and and the player also. How do you teach that? Here I'll give an example of Utkarsh by the in 2018 Junior Nationals final in Jaipur. His anxiety levels were way higher because he was playing in front of his own crowd. He was able, he was 2 love up. Then he lost the 2 games. It became 2-all, and he was kind of off in those 2 games. So when he came out, and I just told him to Utkarsh, see, you're right. You just got to go there, stay in, and stick to the plan. You have to stay focused. 2 games down, no problem. We still have 1 game to go. Uh, you need to get back, get your plan going. But then, it didn't probably go that well for him in the initials. He was 10-5 down. So when he looked back at me, all I could give him at that point of time through my gestures, through my ways of talking, was clearly about staying in there and me showing him belief that he can do it. It's my belief on my face that my player can do is all you can do for him at that point of time. You can't teach him. All the referees out here will start saying a conduct warning, this, that, you can't show signals anymore. So obviously, your face is what you can show, and that's where I feel it's very important things to kind of talk to him. Also, during the matches, their referees do give bad calls, sometimes at very crucial points, and uh, crucial decisions. So I kind of, you can't do anything about it. That's what I tell my parents. But this one exercise that I do with them while they're playing matches back at home is that we kind of give them bad decisions here and there, so they are able to kind of get used to it, because they do get it in a match. And it's our best as coaches to tell and teach our kids that they are, at the end of the day, the ambassador of the sport. So they need to behave on court in the court conduct. So we try and tell them to avoid getting into all of these things.
So, how do you communicate to the players after the game? That is very important. Whether they have won the game or lost the game, and each player is different. Some of them are very excited and they want to know exactly, ma'am, how did I play? Did I do this well? Did I do that well? Irrespective of whether they have won or lost. And some players need their time. Give them their space. It is not that they are being disrespectful to you. They just need their time to rethink on their own, which will also be very helpful for you also to rethink, calm themselves down, and they themselves will come to you automatically and ask you, ma'am, also, how did I do? Where should I improve on and all? So we will ask. We all know to ask some very very basic questions. How did you do? Did you give your best? I mean, all the coaches that I've had, all of them, whether personally speaking for myself, is whether I won or I lost, I always gave 500% on court. They would always come and ask me very like shant say, how did you do? Did you give your best? Did the opponent do well? Did you learn something? So on and so forth. Can you do better next time? In what area? Need to train harder in what area? And then we would pick it up from there and work on it, and my coaches would help me to become a better player in the next match, and I would really really see the difference because of this communication with me when I was a player after the game.
Personally, Mekhla, I think this for me, when you have this conversation after the game with your player, is the best kind of match analysis that you can do. We've heard Chris Ryder say the importance of match analysis. But with younger kids, by doing this, you're kind of developing a lot of other things with him. He's able to understand his game. It's very important for them to know what they did wrong, and for you to let them explain and express what they are feeling. I think that's one of the best match analysis you can do with a player, and then you can also sit together and formulate a plan to how you want to go ahead with the things that are happening. So So what do you think on that?
For the for the other coaches, Dilip.
Yeah. Coaches, other coaches, whoever wants to talk.
Dilip, Avi, Dheeraj. Everyone's on mute, I think.
I normally always every evening during a tournament always like have a team meeting, and we always discuss the day's match, what we have done, how the kids have done, if something could have been done better, or if they feel they've given 100%, then it's good. And we also tend to discuss the next day's match if possible. But mostly it is on that day's match, and it's a joint meeting because I like the juniors to be there, whether they're under 11s or 13s. When the 17s and 19s or 15 senior players are speaking, it also brings about for them uh, some things like these kids are also doing it, so we should also do it. And they do pick up, I've seen certain words, certain ideas of how to put across their points, which is good.
True. Yeah.
And
Abhinav?
and from there, no, sorry, just one last sentence.
Sorry. Yeah.
Normally, what I see from there is all of them then together they'll go for their lunch, not lunch so much, but dinner, because this is normally in the evening. They all end up going for their dinner, and they then do also come for their matches then after that, which is very good.
Yeah. Brings in a team spirit.
Yeah.
So you think this is kind of good to do, like a match analysis? Do you think it is kind of a match analysis that you feel is important to do?
Of course, it is very, very important. It should be done. That's the best way to learn.
There'll be a lot of people. Sorry, you can start.
So that's the best way to learn. And also sometimes then they try and figure out, oh shit, I also have this. I also know this shot. I also know how to play like this. So they themselves start thinking about their own game.
Yeah. Thanks, Avi. Abhinav?
Anyone else? Abhinav?
Continuing with the same point, what Avi was saying, team meeting. Initially, what generally do is, because obviously the court conditions and everything is different when you're traveling for the tournaments. So especially I make juniors and seniors sit together and discuss about how are the courts, how are you feeling overall, their diet, some basic stuff for initial days, because they tend, when you're traveling, they somehow tend to forget what we are here for, right? So maybe juniors get a lot of benefit out of listening to seniors, how they are conducting themselves. And match analysis, to be frank, it's very different for different players. So if few players like to analyze and make plans for the next day match, few players want to keep it open. So that's very individual. But in a group session, it is always good to see senior talking about how other coach, if you're traveling to a cold region, say from Bombay to Delhi in winters, and you have to hit the ball higher, because juniors, see, by the time they will get to know all these things, the tournament might be over for them. So it's really always better for us to guide them well in advance. These are the things you will face right now. And if they hear it from the senior after that, you say knock one day before the event, that is something what I generally emphasize on in the team meetings. And as I said, that game analysis is different for different players. Few players doesn't want to watch any videos, to be frank, during the tournament, and few are like, I want to watch and discuss, right? So that is definitely helpful as well.
Okay, thanks. Dilip?
Yes, Avi said, if you're doing a team meeting every evening, it's very, very important. So that if that particular player didn't play with the opponent, maybe other player would play with the opponent. So he can give you the feedback, what is good, what is bad about him, and then he can make a plan accordingly. And second thing, as Abhinav says, is there are few people who don't like to discuss just after the game. Again, it's very, very individual. But even if you're discussing just after the match, again based on the player, I think it's really, really good. As Surbi says, it's a good thing to give a good feedback to this guy.
All right. Thank you.
How can you improve communication. I think style of communication is very natural. आपको जो भाषा समझ आती है या जो भी लैंग्वेज में आप कंफर्टेबल हैं और आपका स्टूडेंट कंफर्टेबल है, वो होनी चाहिए. जो सब कर रहे हैं वो चीज नहीं होनी चाहिए. जिस चीज में आपको पता है, मैं जानता हूँ कि मैं इस चीज को सबसे अच्छे तरीके से कर सकता हूँ, समझा सकता हूँ, वो इम्पोर्टेंट है. इम्पोर्टेंट ये नहीं है कि मैं कहीं गया था, वो उनको किस तरीके से सिखाता है. आप किस तरीके से सिखा सकते हैं, वही चीज है. किस तरीके से अपनी बात को सही तरीके से आगे ले जा सकते हैं, वो एक बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट चीज है. तो ये चीज आपको ध्यान रखना चाहिए कि आप जो बोल रहे हैं, आपकी उस पर कमांड होनी चाहिए, आपको उसके बारे में सब पता होना चाहिए. और बेस्ट चीज कर सकते हैं आप, जो आप हैं, जैसे हैं आप वैसे ही रहिए. उसको आप चेंज करने की कोशिश नहीं कीजिए. आप अपने आप को अपडेट कीजिए, बट आप अपने आप को चेंज नहीं कीजिए. दैट इज वन ऑफ द मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट थिंग्स दैट यू कैन डू.
We have to be really open to ideas, and we have to be adaptive to change of training, ways, methods, designs. I mean, if a player comes up to me and says that, ma'am, I can't do squats today, I'm not going to be like, no, you will have to do them. I'll give him something else to do that. If a player comes and tells me that I feel like doing service returns today, and in my session I had planned services that day, so I will adapt, and I'll be like, fine, we will do what you want to do. So that we have to be open to exchange of thoughts and ideas, and I have to be honest and sincere. I have to show that yes, I am with my player, and whatever he wants to do, I am with him. I have to take him, I have to pull him up with me. And if I don't know something, I should just step back and say, I'm sorry, I don't know, I will get back to you. ये नहीं कि अपने ही फर्रे मार रहे हैं कि ये है वो है, ये नहीं. Yes, I can hear Dilip smiling. I can see him smiling. And ये नहीं कि
जलेबी बनाने का जरूरत नहीं है.
ये नहीं कि यार ये तो ऐसा था, ये कब बदल गया, ये सब नहीं. If I don't know something, accept it gracefully, go and find out. It is not a dent on your character that, oh, you don't know. What is this? You don't know, you don't know. Rules keep changing. The court conditions keep changing. The player comes and asks me, how is a court in Delhi in Roshnara courts? I don't know. So maybe I will ring up someone in Delhi and find out how the courts over there. So the main thing is, wrong information is the worst information.
Be caring. Show your players that you really care about them. It's not about just their squash. Squash is a part of their life. It is not their life. And this is not what you should also, as coaches, not make it, because then they stop liking the sport. The prime motto is for them to like the sport. So you've got to be with them, spend time with them, just ask them how their school is going. They're growing up, they have their small issues. Like also in the psychology session, they told us, spend time, go out. I'm not saying go out regularly, but you should spend that time with them, and they should be able to connect with you on a personal level, not just as a squash coach. Because today we are just not making players and squash champions. We are making good people, good human beings who are going to be in the world ahead. Squash is not the ultimate thing in life, and you need to be some kind of driving force, a help in becoming a kind of more a person who helps them achieve their better human being, someone who helps them achieve their goals in terms, just not at squash, in the other things as well. Sometimes it's just how much you care, not how much you know. I may not know anything, but I'm just there in him, believing that I can do good stuff for him. I just care how well he does in his life. It doesn't matter, I may know everything in this world, but if I don't believe in him, I don't care about him, I don't care how I can't be that authoritarian here. I need to be that democratic person who helps him nurture, who helps him grow. That's a very, very important thing in a coach's life that he needs to do.
And last of all is the communication. You have to communicate. You have to keep talking. You have to know what is he doing, what he likes, what he doesn't like. You have to keep like in Hindi you say bak bak karna. You have to continuously do bak bak, because if the player doesn't tell you that there's something wrong, maybe his parents have had a fight at home and he's very quiet, he's very shant, otherwise a very bubbly player. If you don't keep asking him, you will not have a good session, he will not have a good session. So you have to know what is going on in his mind, and you have to tell the player honestly also what is going on in your mind also. Because if you're unhappy with the previous day's session, you have to tell him that maybe you can push a little bit harder. So the main key in all this is communication, and it is the most important tool that a coach should have in his armory.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Harry. Harry, are you here? Is Harry here? I need to
Yes.
ask him a question. How are you, Harry?
Yes, I'm good.
Okay, I just wanted to know, like, we just wanted, as a player, I just want you to tell us, what do you think the coaches you've had in your life throughout what kind of a role have they played? How important was a coach in your life?
Like initially when I started, AI sir, everyone knows him. He was very strict, and I started playing in YPS Mohali, where all the sports coaches were very authoritative, and that's why all the coaches are in schools all around India, and like what he said had to be done no matter what. So that I grew up in made me, at the same time it was very difficult in the start, and as I grew older, it made me realize that all the discipline I have and all the respect that I have for all the coaches, for everyone, was because of that kind of behavior that under which I grew up. And when I moved to Chennai, and when I was playing tournaments in different cities in the country, made me realize that there is the friendship side to the coaching that coaches give. There's that side as well. And when I moved to Chennai, when I got to know Major Sir, Cyrus Sir well, with the coaches, I had a very a very personal bond as well, apart from the coaching side, where I could discuss my personal problems, where I could discuss my financial problems, a lot of squash players face. And Cyrus Sir, with the coaching aspect, he's a good friend as well. So so I went through all the different kind of coaching behaviors.
Okay.
So basically, you say they play a good role in your life, throughout, just not as a squash player, but to deal with other things as well.
Yeah, coaches' behavior, it also depends at what kind of background a kid has grown up in. For example, if a kid has grown up in a school, the kid is already used to the authoritarian behavior from a coach. That kid does very well, when a coach is that way. And if the coach, doesn't behave with the kid that way, the kid sometimes kind of, take the coaches for a ride, how we say, don't listen to them,
Yeah.
don't behave very well. So, you have to be very careful. And at the other hand, when I was growing up, few of my relatives, came who were playing squash. They came from America and Canada, and when a coach started behaving with them in the same way, they kind of stopped playing. They were
Yeah.
not behaving. They stopped responding to the coach in the same way how we would respond. So, our coach had to completely turn around his behavior towards them. Be more democratic and more friendly, and like
Alright.
you and Meghna mentioned earlier. So it just kind of
Yeah.
depends on what kind of background the player has.
Yep.
Thanks, Harry.
Harry.
Thank you.
Anyone,
Thank you, ma'am.
any questions? Cyrus sir,
Yes.
I want to know what kind of listener, you are in the academy since you've been running something similar for last 20 years.
Right. So I would think one of my strengths have always been communication and listening to people. I believe that's something which I have always done. Some people do say that also is it could have a negative effect, that I'm not as harsh as it can be. But I do believe, and I think those who've worked with me also know that I can be very harsh, I can be very strict, and when they need to be put down, they are. So, but generally, I am more towards the listening type and understanding and trying to work with the athletes together to do things.
So
Thank
basically,
you.
you're there for them when they need you, is what you're trying to say
Yes.
here. Okay.
Yes.
Anyone, any more questions? Or Meghla, would you like to say something?
Let's get on to the questions. So
Most of the
we are reading
questions
the
are need to do skipping.
Everyone wants to know how much skipping kids should do, Meghla.
You can just answer that question, and then if there's no further questions, then we can be done.
Sorry, what was the question? I can't see it.
Skipping. The question says, Meghla,
The
how much
question
skipping
is,
a player should do under 11, under 13, under 15 category, any analytics to do the needful?
okay, let me just answer this. I have no analytics, but if they want to be a world-class athletes and become like a boxing world champion, make them do a few thousand per day. That's the
5,000. Yeah.
authoritative way to say, make them do a few thousand per day. I can guarantee you they'll be bloody fit and bloody strong if they do this for a period of time.
And fast. I can't
Okay,
read
what
the
are the
questions.
complexities when
What
a
are-
coach trains his own child? Oh my God,
Meghla,
that's
you're doing that. Meghla, you're doing
Right.
that. Let's hear your views.
No
Yeah, Meghla,
complexities at all. No complexities at all. He is treated at the same level as others are. He
No, the
is
question
punished.
the question I will have is, okay, you treat him the same way, which is very good, and I'm sure it will. But I hope it does not happen. But sooner than later, you will see a rift between both of you all. That will happen unless you are one of those 0.001% who will be very lucky to do it. Most of the times, parents dealing with their children, there's always a rift. It's because of being familiar. So, when you're with somebody the whole day and night and stuff, that does happen. And that would generally happen by the time he'd be 12, 13, 14. So if you can keep him in check from the start,
No,
then
very much.
he will be as good as Harinder.
I hope he is. I mean, Harry is my son's role model. But
That's what Harry is asking.
Yeah,
Ma'am, who
yes.
is your son's favorite player?
Yeah, Harry only. No, so, but what I believe, Cyrus, is like if you see the Williams sister in tennis, the father was the coach. You see Andre Agassi, father was the coach. Who else can you think was father was the coach? I mean, parents. So, I mean, he's treated like any one of the other players, punished, prodded, said good words, and he doesn't really talk back much, thankfully, till now, is because he knows others are watching. And I've also told him that others are watching. You act tough, they will also act tough. So till now, thankfully, he's been fine.
Yep, good.
How to train someone who doesn't listen at all, especially when it comes to fitness? Isn't that all of the players? You got to make ways of making him do things. I remember Amir Waghi telling us this. He wasn't able to make Abdullah run ever. He's Abdullah Mazain is one of the most talented squash players that I've seen. So he used to say he never used to do court runs. So he had to sometimes do it with him for him to start doing it. And then again, your authoritarian side of the coach needs to come out. First, you can be a little light with him, do it with him, do it in a fashion he likes it. But then if he's still not understanding it, you should be the one getting into the authority and saying, I want my stuff done, means I want my stuff done.
Or please step out.
Just one tip I will give to this, of course. So if you're doing it, as Surbi is saying, you got to be authoritative to do it. But a way which works wonders for most people is doing group training. So if you're doing fitness especially, and you do it as a group, it certainly motivates people to do it better. Number one. Number two, it also gives them that competitive edge, so they don't do it, at a slow pace. Because I've seen numerous occasions. You tell somebody, let's say, do 100 quad runs, they will do it and they'll take 6 minutes, which is lousy. And you make him do it with another person, they do it in the 5 minutes. So that makes the difference. So if you do things in a group, they get motivated to do it. So to answer that question, try and do, especially things like fitness training, do it as a group session.
True.
I think that's all.
Yeah, I think if you tell him the importance of that fitness, he'll sooner or later he'll do it, because no need to tell Saurabh or Ramit how important the fitness is. So he's doing apne aap. No need to tell anything to those people. They are coming to the gym and doing the 2 hours for sure. But tell him the importance of the fitness training. If you're doing this, you are in. Otherwise, you are out.
Good point.
Yes, I've had many occasions where my players have known how important fitness is, but they still are slackening. So the best way I found out is if you do it in a group, it motivates them.
Yes.
And
thank you,
one more,
everyone. Yeah, sorry.
Just to cover it up. So as Harry was saying, few younger kids drop out because of being very strict. So what I generally do is, as Cyrus said, that it's always good to have a group session, and you create a healthy competition around it. So you instead of criticizing someone, you start praising someone in that group, that you are the best for the day or best for the week. That somehow have worked for few kids, motivating them. Okay, I'll also push for a 20 quote run or 21 quote run. So if you can just tweak around few healthy competition, I think that also helps. No negative feedback, basically.
Yep.
Excellent.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Cyrus sir. Thank you, Meghla.
Okay.
Thank you, Cyrus. Thanks.
Good show, guys.
Dilip,
Thank you.
Avi, Abhinav, thank you. Dheeraj Singh, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam, thank you.